Hey, good morning. It is 10:10. It is time to hang with Terry and Christine.
That's us.
That's us.
Christine and Terry, just to make sure we got that straight. How's everybody doing today?
It's Wednesday. Yay. Hump day, as some say.
Wednesday? Hump day?
Hey, so, when we started our business, we were on a journey. We knew that working together, well, he started on his own, and then I joined him. And Terry's foundational as a psychologist has always been emotions and behaviors. And we know that's the core of getting people to move forward, getting people to let go, is really understanding how their emotions play into it. That's where you become resilient, where you can move forward, where you can dominate your space, where you're just showing up who you are and being proud of what's going on and not letting a no or other people's opinions really drag you down. And so that's what we want to talk about today. The positioning of the emotions was, oh, don't do that. Sell them what they want, not what they need. So yeah, we've learned how to get you leads. We've learned how to get your message out there. We've perfected our message, but it comes back to, are we checking our emotions? So I have the emotions expert right here
Hi,
in my living room.
Good to see you.
And we are going to break down why emotions are the thing that bogs you down.
Yeah. So, like she said, we've talked about a lot about productivity. We've talked about being focused on what you need to be focused on. We've had all kinds of different Facebook Lives that we've talked about being your best in business. But one of the things that we don't talk a whole lot about, but when we start really coaching people, we really break into deeply, is how our emotions really affect what we do, because we are emotional beings. We start with emotion. And, one of the things...
What do you mean by start with emotion? Like when we're babies?
Yeah, when we're born, we're emotional creatures, and we learn how to think as we grow up and our mind develops. And so we start out as emotional, experiential beings, and we grow into these large creatures that use their brain for everything, and we pretend that emotions don't exist until they stop us. And
they're always happening because they're in your unconscious mind. So
it's constant.
you can't control them. They're happening.
And so one of the things that I found when I was doing my work in psychology, working with severely emotionally disturbed populations and the aggressive populations, is everything that caused a problem was started in emotions. And then what we actually tend to do is we explain why we did what we just did instead of really moving forward. And getting rid of that stuff. And so we just pile on more of the thinking and understanding. Hi, Robin, good to see you. We pile on more of the thinking about what's happening out there instead of identifying what's going on with inside of us.
So that kind of brings up the three things that we're going to talk about today. And this kind of came about because our friend does a wellness resource group, and she invited Terry to be an expert on his show. So she wanted to talk about being like what causes in a depressed state. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about like the three emotional states and where that depression or being depressed is really showing up. Because it shows up, depression is not a feeling, it is a behavior. So we're going to touch on that. And then what emotional state you're in when you're most productive and most serving yourself and being able to serve others. So Terry, can you talk to us a little bit about the three emotional states?
Sure. The three emotional states that we're talking about, and this is our first point, our emotional states. It's the same emotion, but we have a dominating state that's like we're trying to cope or we're trying to control our emotion. We don't necessarily know that that's what we're doing, but we're trying to rise above. We're trying to take control of whatever's going on, and we think we're taking control of the outside world. We think we're taking responsibility and making things happen, but really what we're doing is we're fighting with ourselves and our emotions. And so the second state, you got a question?
Well, no, I mean, you said we're trying to, and trying is not making it happen necessarily.
Right.
So that's like natural. Well, go back to it because that's the identifying versus the emotional intelligence.
And so the second piece is dominated which is more of the victim stance. And so what we really experience a lot is we feel dominated by the world around us. Things happen, we get triggered, and we have emotional experiences. And what happens is we have this interplay between this dominating or trying to control it and being controlled.
So how do you just move? Is there a way you can just move from it?
Yeah. The funny thing is moving from it is really about being able to identify our emotion that we feel victimized by. And so...
Like, pick one for me.
I'll pick one for you. How about that? A lot of us are experiencing this one right now, and it's powerless. We're locked in, to some degree, we're locked into this social distancing, living at home, or what do they call it? Sheltering in place kind of thing. And it didn't come to me for a second. And so we're sheltering in place, and we really feel powerless to go out and do what we usually do. We feel frightened to go out and do our regular thing because we don't want to get this terrible virus. And so the powerlessness is that dominated or victim feeling, and then we try to become more powerful by controlling it. And a lot of times we get angry, or we get stressed, or we get anxious around that, and those are behaviors that we do to control that feeling of powerlessness.
That kind of moves us into that next. So depressed is in which state? Depressed
is really the result of trying to cope or trying to deal with this powerlessness and failing. And so we try to have a good attitude, we try to be positive, we try to be hopeful, we try to do all of these things, and they don't work. And so every time we try, we feel a little more victimized by that feeling, and it gets a little heavier and a little heavier and a little heavier. And pretty soon we just go, what's the use? I don't know.
So how do we snap out of it? It's by identifying the emotions again.
Right. And so the third state that we didn't talk about yet is balanced intentional. And so we want to really be intentional when we're balancing our emotions. Really just boils down to identifying when we're feeling powerless. Just let it out. I talk about having a treasure chest kind of thing, and the treasure chest really is full of dominated emotions. It's not a good treasure, it's bad treasure. Bad treasure. And it's in this chest, and it's just kind of seething in there, and it's terrible. And we don't want to open it because the real coping idea or the controlling is trying to keep that thing shut. When we open it and let it out, it just kind of fades away. And so
you're saying almost like drilling a hole to see what's in there and pulling out anyway, that could be a rabbit hole. So we're
that was
not
interesting. I like the idea.
We'll work
things
that
coming out
one
sideways.
out.
But really opening it up and saying, I'm feeling powerless, or I'm feeling useless, or I'm feeling worthless. Those are all dominated emotions or victim stance emotions. And when we can identify those, I'm feeling pressured, or I'm feeling inferior, I'm not as good as other people.
I mean, who wants to be a victim? So, I mean, that's why that's so valuable. I mean, not only we don't want to be, some people might, but I don't want to be around that necessarily. I don't want to be a victim myself. I want to be able to move forward and get things going in my life. And I want to live in that balanced, intentional place because that's where I can be most beneficial, like we talked about. So, letting go of those emotions is where we want to be. So, Terry, can you move us into the balanced emotional, which is the
right?
third
And
state
so,
you're saying.
For powerless, we become powerful by trying to fight it, and we do it through anger. We do it through pointing out how everybody's doing something wrong to us, and we actually feel for a moment that power of at least I'm venting. And people love to talk about venting. Venting's not a good thing. Because all we're doing is we're growing the anger, we're growing this behavior that's not working for us as we're trying to get rid of feeling like a victim. But if we just go, you know what, right now I'm just feeling like a victim and I'm not sure what to do. Being honest about it helps us to step back and really have an intentional perspective around it. And then we can start to really go, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to live in the victim?
And where are we sharing that?
Right, and so first we talk to ourselves about it if we can. If we can't, we find somebody who is a partner that can hear us, or somebody who is
like a lifeline.
Like a lifeline. coach is a good place to go. That's what we do. And so I do this a lot with my business people who are all stressed out or frustrated because their business isn't growing. And I bring them back to go, okay, where are you at right now? And then they tell me about all that's going on. And no. How are you feeling powerless? How are you feeling pressured right now? How are you feeling worthless?
I mean, like, just to answer this
And
for
they
yourself
hate
right
that.
now. I mean,
But when they do, they start moving forward.
yeah. And it's not about beating yourself up that you feel that way. It's just the identifying and letting go. And it's empowering in itself to do that. That it's just the simple steps. So,
you asked me the question, how do you get to balance? And the balance is starting off being that rigorously honest person talking about your emotions, because when we start to get honest about our emotions, we start to balance out right there. And then we start having a different language rather than blaming and shaming and shaming ourselves, blaming the situation, blaming other people. We start to actually become honest about, this is just where I'm at right now. This is how I feel right now. And we get a very calm presence around us, and we can start thinking clearly, and we start feeling empowered, and then we start feeling courageous because we're actually doing something different. We're actually moving forward. And then we can start actually sharing, and we start feeling connected to other people because they can hear us. And so we find somebody like a partner, we find somebody like a coach, or even a therapist if they're good. If they're not good, don't do that. And so
be moved forward. Forward progression is
it's all about being able to identify it and move on. So often I see people identify it and then they sit in it and they sit in it and they sit in it. They get more depressed, they get more anxious, they get more of everything because they're not moving forward. They're just sitting there.
The word anxious
jumping into the chest.
The word anxious makes me anxious.
It does. It does.
So, like, I know people are finding this really helpful. And so, where can they connect to find out more?
You know, if you're interested in knowing more, type yes in the chat. Let us know that you're more interested. We'll reach out to you. If you want, you can call us. Number's 503-577-6872. Give us a call.
Or you can private message us and say, hey, I want to find out more.
And we're located at generatorcoaching.com. That's our website.
I thought he was going to say something Chippewa Drive.
We're there too. And so reach out to us. Become more productive by identifying your emotions. Be able to really take control of your life in an intentional way. Instead of trying to control your emotions, control your world.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something you've been considering for a while, just take action on things. I mean, forgive yourself for not doing it and jump in and start mastering your emotions, as we say. It's a fundamental to how we move forward, and we want you to be moving forward too.
You know, one of the last things that I want to say, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's not our fault that we're not good at this because it's not taught and our emotions are unconscious. We don't know this. I went to school for years, and it wasn't until the end of my school that I really started putting a lot of this stuff together, and it was my experience and my education that really helped me to help people move forward.
Well, and seeing how it worked for other people too.
Yeah, that's that experience, really watching how people change when we do this stuff. And so if you want to change, if you want to make changes in your life, this is a really good time, a really good place to start.
It is. Take care, everyone. It is 10:10 tomorrow. We will see you all, and send us a message.
See y'all tomorrow. Have a good day. I can't stop this thing. It's not stopping.
Well, join